Welcome back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraaf.
And I'm Cathrine, co-host and bestie.
We are just pushing them out, Cathrine.
We are. We're getting caught up.
Episode after another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did. This will be our third this week.
That's kind of a record. We haven't done that in a long time.
Not in a long time, right?
Yeah. And it's, our listeners don't really know because we consistently have put out one a week.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
Some of them, there's been a couple times where
right
I edited
wire.
and put it up on the queue like minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
Well, I only did that once, but
here we are at episode 111, and today's topic is different. We haven't done something like this in terms of a while. With the last one we did where we did a lady or a person, a crime was Pam Hupp. Mm-hmm. We did that episode, and that was fun to do. Yeah. This one we decided to talk about iTonya, the movie. It's like a drama doc or whatever you call it, or dramedy. It was a good movie. We watched it yesterday, and then today we watched the documentary. What was it called?
Sharp Blades or Sharp Edge.
Sharp Edge or Edges or something like that.
Yeah, Sharp Edges.
And that was another documentary about Tonya Harding. And she, as everybody knows, she was the United States female
Olympian. Oh,
champion.
Not Olympian, but
she was a
athlete.
champion.
Yeah.
She was a champion. There's no question about it.
Oh, yeah.
She went to the Olympics, as we're going to talk about her story a little bit, but she never really crossed that line and, got the prize. So, Unfortunately. Anyway, we've got a couple takeaways from today. We're going to give our opinion of the movie, iTonya. And we're going to talk about the characters. And there are some characters in this film. And then we're going to talk about what we can learn, because we really can learn from every life situation. I think that's why stories are so fascinating, because we listen to someone's story and we try to picture ourselves in the story.
Right.
And what would we do? How would we do it differently?
Yeah.
How would we avoid that in the future? I don't think either one of us are going to take up ice skating anytime soon, unless there's a senior citizen ice skating.
When I watch, I think to myself, could I have done that?
No,
in the day.
No, I tried and broke my leg.
Yeah,
that's how
that
was
worked.
You.
Who says I couldn't do it?
Yeah.
But it looks so easy when these professionals do it. But they are on the ice for hours and hours and hours.
Every day.
Yeah.
All right. So give, if somebody's never heard of Tonya Harding, or they've never heard of iTonya or any of it, give your summary. What would you tell them?
Of the movie or of her in general?
Describe the movie. The iTonya movie.
Okay. Well, the movie is as you said, it's not a documentary, but it is a culmination of the prime portion of her life when she, and when she first starts out on the ice, when her mother brings her to this coach and says, "You've got to coach my daughter." And then it advances into when she's really starting to really show her talent and hone it in when she's 15. And it goes on from there to show her tragic, really, life. Not tragic there's always worse, right? But in the circumstances and the environment that she grew up in, how she rebelled against the entire organization of skating, pretty much, and then kind of the demise of her and her career. And I would say that it was a good depiction of her life, because there are contradictory stories between her and her husband, how things really took place. So what these creators of the movie had to do was they had to take real interviews and take a little bit from her, a little bit from him, and then other witnesses and so forth. So yeah.
Now, do you remember watching the Olympics that year?
I do, and I remember
everybody was watching.
Yeah, the focus, the way I remember it back in the 90s, was the focus was on Nancy Kerrigan. And poor Nancy, and just her going, why, and it was It was that. And Tonya was depicted as the bad girl.
Yeah.
And so I never really knew her background. And I think now I think, wow, that girl really proved herself in terms of what she came from.
Yeah.
And what she was capable of.
Oh, yeah.
And she kind of went through the tunnel and came out the other end. And the tunnel was all this bashing. You can't do this. And a lot of it was from her own mother.
Yeah, which is tragic in and of itself.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, like, when you're describing her and how she came out of these crazy circumstances, the term that goes through my mind is like a phoenix rising above the ashes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she literally came out of like the muck and the mire of life. Her mom was married 5 times. There was alcohol abuse. There was poverty. Her mom did hold down 3 jobs in order to pay for her skating lessons and ice time and outfits and all of that. Go ahead.
But some of the time her mother wasn't even employed. And the father.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived in the back of a truck at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. So you want to talk about the characters?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can.
All right. Well, let's talk about them. So we've got Tonya, who, you know, obviously she's the ice skater and she's the focus.
Yes.
And the poor girl. She was so cute when they showed her on her very first day on the ice or whatever, according to the film. She had this little furry white hat on.
Yeah.
It was adorable.
Yeah, it really depicted the early 80s, it would have been.
Yeah.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s. And she was adorable.
Yeah, it's
and
just so cute.
I love how in the movie, when the mom brings her to the practice place where the coach is, and the coach says, well, how old is she? And she's like, she's a soft 4.
Yeah, like, what does that mean?
It means she's 3.
Yeah, right.
And the coach says no.
Yeah.
But then little Tonya starts just ice skating around her. And I guess this happened for a week or so.
Yeah.
And every day she'd do that. And then the coach said in an interview that she noticed that this girl really could shine.
Yeah, and that she
thing.
had some tenacity to her, so she was going to stick with it.
Right.
But she did say she was precocious.
Yeah, she did.
So her inner self, her inside, you know, which was projecting throughout her life, right? Isn't that part of like our personality and the core of us comes out in many ways, multiple ways.
Yeah.
So it was coming out on the ice, her, you know, her drive as well as her, you know, animal spirit or whatever. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Lavanya, her mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Yeah, we were watching this film and we both said, you could not make this up. You just couldn't make it up and make it believable.
No.
But there she was.
Yeah. Well, and it's the mother is played by Allison Janney.
Yeah.
Or Janney, however you say it. And I feel they couldn't have picked a better actress for that role. She was rough. And she plays a rough mom in the a comedy sitcom called Mom.
Yeah.
Anyway. But Tanya's mother, her way of encouraging her daughter was by putting her down.
Yeah.
And by telling her she's no good, she sucks, she's fat. She'll never make it. And that was her way of getting her to do better.
Yeah, she even claimed that was like her secret sauce.
Yeah.
You know, that was the only way that Tonya was going to really perform is to tell her that she can't do it. Yeah. Otherwise, she's not going to do it.
Well, I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
That's not how you encourage a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 15-year-old.
Or anybody.
No.
I mean, whatever. And then she had just the look of her, those big giant glasses and the furry coat, like a faux furry coat, and then a parrot or something on her shoulder, like she's a pirate
bird. And in the movie that's there because there is this 1986 interview where she does have that parrot.
Yeah, like it's no big deal.
Right. Like there's
everybody has a bird on their shoulder
in the room, which is a parrot on your shoulder. Where's it going to poop?
I don't think it's a parrot, but it's some kind of a colorful bird.
Yeah.
Tropical bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was an interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
And she swore a lot.
Oh,
a lot. She called people names like the C name. She called,
yes, she did.
She called that, at least on the TV, on the film. I don't know if in real life, but it wasn't much of a stretch.
Yeah, I found a website. It's called History versus Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And it does do the homework for you,
Mm-hmm.
where it'll say how much of this was true. And there's a part in the movie where Tonya says to the judge, well, I won't say it because I can't say it on our podcast.
Right.
And she didn't actually say that, but some of the dialogue that happened prior to that was said, just not at the judge's booth.
So it would be fair to say that Tonya Harding grew up in a culture that was crass. Let's just call it crass.
You could, right.
You could say that her mother didn't hold back in terms of her anger. She didn't hold back in terms of etiquette. She didn't hold back in terms of, language and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this was a very classy, graceful sport. And the girls were, and their mothers, their families were expected to have a certain look and carry themselves in a certain way. And most of the girls that competed were like princesses, and they considered her, and this is their words, like redneck,
Yeah. Which is such a shame
words.
because she really had raw talent.
Yeah.
She had raw talent.
She did.
That came from God. Where else can you say it comes from?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then her father left in the film. That was so heartbreaking.
It was.
Oh, just to see him leaving and pulling away and her crying, "Don't leave me here."
I hate that scene.
Yeah.
I do. And in real life, she and her father had a close relationship their entire lives. Thank God she had her father, and he loved her. And it sounds like they had a healthy relationship, but he couldn't be in the picture. I mean, I don't even know if he could make it to all the competitions. I don't know.
They did say that he went to several competitions and loved to watch her.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, in iTonya, it said that he couldn't have custody of her because he worked overnight 12-hour shifts or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was his reasoning why he couldn't take her. But what a heartbreak for him, for her.
Yeah.
And the mom in the movie, she was just like, "You're better off without him," or something like that.
I think it's worth mentioning, too, that the association, the skating association or whatever it's called, they said that Tonya had to have a fur coat. That's what everyone was wearing.
Jeez.
So the dad, he taught Tonya how to hunt and fish, and that's part of her athleticism too. They said that helped her have a different kind of edge, I guess, than the other girl skaters. Yeah. Anyway, so he killed rabbit and cut the skins off, or whatever the word is for that, and made her fur coat.
He did that. Like, did you find that other than just the film, the iTonya film? Did you find that in another source?
I did not.
Okay.
So that would be another thing to fact check.
Okay.
But we do know for sure he
curious.
taught her how to do that.
Yeah, but what a funny, it would be a funny spoof, if if it wasn't actual, if he didn't actually, sew these rabbit pelts together.
Yeah, but it would be fair to say, though, that most of her costumes and things, or a lot of them anyway, were handmade by herself or her mother even.
Yeah.
And but later the coach paid for a lot.
Yeah, and all that stuff is expensive.
Oh my goodness. When we were watching it, I said, I wonder who paid for all of that, because it wasn't said in the movie. It's just expensive.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about Jeff, the husband.
Oh my goodness, Jeff. I like to say his last name is Googly, but it's not. He changed it, but it was, let's see, how do you say it? Galooly.
Okay, Galooly. Okay.
The Goon.
The Goon,
And the mother called him Mustache.
Because he had one of those.
I knew Mustache had something to do with this in regards to the incident of the infamous whack on Nancy Kerrigan.
Yeah.
His version is that, what's her name? Tonya was abusive, or she would fight back, which she does not deny. She said, yeah, I fought back, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
She learned later that
and how
didn't help.
How did they meet? I forget.
He was at
the
the place
skating
where
rink?
she was ice skating.
And saw her there.
And he took it, and he was older than her,
Uh-huh.
and he took interest in her and said she was beautiful or pretty or something like that. And she, she hadn't heard that
Yeah.
from people. So.
And they depicted it, the reason that she left home and married him pretty young
Mm-hmm.
and right away almost is because she wanted to get away from her home life, which no one would blame her for that.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're stepping out of the frying pan and into the fire
Yeah.
in terms of leaving whatever her name was, Lavanya, and going into the arms of Jeff.
Right. And he definitely was abusive as well. Not at first, she said, but later. And she said she thought it was normal. She thought that one could love
And
simultaneously
Yeah.
the same time they're hitting.
Yeah.
And so she thought that was possible,
Yeah.
normal.
Right. She probably thought this is the way it goes.
Mhm.
Because if you're brought up like that from the get-go.
I guess that she was like a codependent. Like she
Yeah.
just was codependent on the abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's an interesting character. So he hooks up with Tonya and he's her man, her husband,
Yeah.
and her big supporter. And she's starting to grow into her skating career. And she quit high school to skate.
Yeah.
So she never did, as to my knowledge, did she get a GED or anything? I didn't see it anywhere.
I did not either.
Okay, so this is her one ticket is skating. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then they get, further down the road, and now she's in these higher competitions with like Nancy Kerrigan. Let's talk about Nancy for a minute.
Okay.
And then we'll get back to Jeff.
I don't know what to say about Nancy. I don't know. I watched an interview of her
Yeah.
years later, and I'm going to be honest. I'll just say I thought she was quite sassy.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, Nancy Kerrigan was an unfortunate victim of circumstances.
True.
She was in the right place at the wrong time in terms of in competition with this whole entity called Tonya Harding, right? Because it wasn't just Tonya. It was Tonya and her mother and her husband or her ex-husband and his tribe. And Nancy Kerrigan just happened to be at the top of her game at the same time that Tonya Harding was at the top of her game. Mm-hmm. And, all the comparisons are there.
Right. Now, have we outlined for people who don't know Tonya and Nancy Kerrigan, have we said what actually happened?
Well,
Did we-
they don't know.
Well, some
What
people
happened?
listening might not know.
Okay, so tell what happened.
Nancy Kerrigan was practicing for this big competition that was coming up. And one of Tonya Harding's henchmen, it basically was her husband's friend who claimed he was her bodyguard, had her clubbed in the knee so that she couldn't-
hired a hitman to club her.
Yeah. In the knee.
They were trying to break her legs
Yes.
with a club.
But
One whack.
Right. Supposedly the plan was just to write letters to her
Threatening.
to
Death threats.
threaten.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah. So the big incident is what was the big fall for both of them, really. I would say for Nancy, because you're right, she definitely was a victim.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. And but Tonya was too.
She was. And I feel like for Nancy, it was unfortunate that she fell into this like web of craziness because she was just doing her thing. She was just doing her sport, and whatever her attitude was around it or about it. I mean, that's your whole everything. She sacrificed as much as Tonya did in terms of time.
Yeah.
On the ice.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to do that stuff
right.
like by just sitting around watching Netflix.
Yes.
You got to get up off the couch and go to the ice and fall a million times. So Nancy Kerrigan, unfortunately, had that portion of her life and her career overshadowed by this big controversy.
Yeah.
Now, and the big competition that they were practicing for was to see who was going to go to the Olympics. So that was a big deal. That's like the
very big deal.
the crown.
Right.
And she did get to go, even though she got whacked.
Yeah, she healed quickly.
She did. They didn't actually break anything. They bruised her. Plus, they said that the device that was used to hit her was a retractable, like, baton.
Yeah.
Some kind of a police baton that was retractable. And the guy came up from behind and whacked her in the back of the upper thigh. So, you know, that's an odd spot. I think he was trying to break her leg.
Yeah.
But
these were all buffoons anyway.
It's so true.
The so-called bodyguard said he was into espionage. And an interviewer was like, but you weren't. He goes, but I was. But you weren't.
Yes, I was.
Yes, I was.
It's like, if I say it's true, it's true.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well, that's why I think at some point in this movie, there's also like this interview of Tonya, and she says, what is truth? There's no truth.
Yeah. It's like whatever your perception is. Well, anyway, so for Nancy, it just was an unfortunate thing that kind of shaped her career.
Yeah.
Then from that point, and she did go on to skate in the Olympics, and she got a silver medal. And Tonya made fun of the way in which Nancy looked while she was receiving her silver medal, and the other skater was getting a gold medal. And that, to me, seemed unfair. It's like, okay, but let's just try not to let every thought come out of our mouth. Let's try.
Well, look at her example, though. Her mother.
Mom.
Yeah. Now, she did have these coaches, the coach and the choreographer around her. And at some point, she had, for a short period of time, I think she had another coach as well. And these people, you know, they taught her manners.
Yeah.
And so she did have these positive, influential people around her.
Yeah.
But look what she had all those years.
In her formative years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was ongoing. And
Yeah,
sometimes that's very, if you don't get real help, I think it's really hard to lose that.
Absolutely true. And hopefully now our friend Tonya, in case she's listening.
Yeah.
Hi, Tonya.
Google yourself, Tonya.
Yeah, see if we come up on there. But hopefully now, because I did tell you before we started recording about the interview that I saw with her with Piers Morgan from Good Morning Great Britain or whatever it was, whatever the show that he was on. And I felt like she handled herself very well. She excused herself from the interview and politely said, I think we're going to have to bring this interview to a close and have a good day.
Because he said what?
He said he accused her of knowing that, you know, that this attack was going to happen. And I forgot the other thing that he accused her of. What did I tell you?
Well, like you said, that she knew. And I think that's all you said.
No, there was a second part of it. But whatever it was, it's escaped me, so I'm sorry. But
it's okay.
I felt like, and this interview must have been when this movie came out. Okay, so that was about 5 years ago, and I felt like there was a maturity there, and that's what we're all on the journey, right, of life.
I hope,
and we're just trying to put one foot in front of the other. So instead of reacting, you know, like by taking the headset off and throwing it or throwing a chair.
Whacking her knee. His knee. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
She just politely excused herself from the interview. And how do I know what's going on in her head? But it just seemed like that's a better space to be in.
Yeah. And from what I know about interviews, usually they know what they're going to talk about. And who knows, maybe he breached the contract on what they were supposed to be talking about. And especially then for her to walk away like that and say, I think we're done.
Yeah.
You know, very good. Right. When you and I were watching the movie, I couldn't help but think about that era of time, 94. It was 94, right?
Mid-90s, yeah.
Yeah, and there was O.J. Simpson, and then this was headlines, and the Lorena Bobbitt thing.
I know, Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
He was doing stuff.
Yes.
There was a lot.
There was that short period of time in that early 90s.
I don't know how we got anything done back then, you know? Because we're constantly watching the news.
Yeah, well, good for those late night comics, you know, with their monologue jokes.
Geez, yeah. All right, let's talk about another character. Let's dive into Sean, the bodyguard.
Oh my gosh, the bodyguard, the buffoon. I'm turning my phone back on and scrolling up. Yes, he changed his. So he died in what year did he die? 2007, and he was only 40.
Yeah,
it says
young.
Natural causes. I don't know what natural causes at 40, but
Probably a heart attack.
I would venture to say that. Yes.
Yeah.
Looking at him. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. And, but they don't know, actually. And yes, he, like we said, he claimed that he was into espionage and he had people
Yeah.
beneath him, which really
Right.
they didn't. And really, he was just the husband's friend.
Yeah.
That's
The connection.
the connection. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but the way that they portrayed him in this movie, it seemed like he was, his light bulbs didn't go all the way on. There was definitely something wrong with him.
Oh, yeah. He lived with his parents. The mother even made phone calls for them. There was at some point where Tonya's husband, Jeff, is trying to get a hold of Tonya. And she hangs up on him. And then the friend, he says, "Mom,
Redial.
can you redial?" So the mom goes to the rotary phone and
Yeah.
she dials again. This took place 2 or 3 times?
Yeah. I just felt like Sean was living in his own Sean world.
For sure.
And he was detached from reality, and his
Very.
moral compass was
He didn't have
totally
one.
broken.
Yeah.
He
didn't
did
have-
not know that it wouldn't be a good idea to whack somebody in the legs,
Yeah.
And
it looks like he concocted the whole thing.
It does seem that way.
He actually sent letters to Tonya, death-threatening letters. And unbeknownst to the husband, Jeff, he supposedly did not know about that until his friend, the bodyguard, what's his name, Sean, says, "Oh, yeah, that was me."
Can you imagine trying to sort all this out?
Yeah.
Like the whole mess?
I know. It's like the Pam Hupp thing.
Oh,
Big mess.
yeah. So just to recap, Sean and Jeff were buds, and they came up with the plan they were going to scare Nancy Kerrigan away from the competition by sending her death threats. They thought that was going to work. Well, Sean took it upon himself to hire some thugs to whack her in the leg and try to break her leg so that she just literally could not compete.
Right.
And then they showed him when it was all over the news. He was all excited about it.
Oh, yes. They said at some point, I think he said, "Oh, I'm not going to tell anybody." And then they show him telling people when he's in the urinal. He's telling everybody. And the funny part, too, is one of the reporters in the movie says, "Yeah, he's on camera in his car trying to pull away, circle around
Right.
so that he's not suspicious."
Right.
Hello.
Yeah.
How could you not, I don't know, realize that that's suspicious behavior?
And it seemed like it didn't take old Sean but 5 minutes with the FBI to just confess and give it all up.
Exactly.
And then he threw his friend under the bus. He's like, "Yeah, Jeff was in on it."
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about a couple more characters. Let's talk about Diane, the coach.
Oh, Diane, the coach. Well, she seems like she was a classy lady.
She did.
And she stuck with this gal, Tonya. And Tonya, at one point, this is true, there was a part in the movie where Tonya throws a bat at her because she's having a fit.
Yeah.
Tonya is having a fit. And she gets upset and she throws the bat. Well, she later apologized about that and took ownership of that incident and said that it was a bad moment.
Yeah,
bad
what's
day.
interesting, what comes up for me when you're describing that is conflict resolution, right, is a learned behavior. And so if you're living in basically this mess, right, you're growing up in it, you don't know any different. You think everybody lives like this.
Yeah.
So your conflict resolution style starts to get embedded in you.
For sure. Absolutely. It's hard to get that. Well, her mother threw a knife at her.
She sure
The
did.
mom denies it.
Yeah.
But she threw a kitchen steak knife at her,
Yeah.
and it stuck in her arm. It didn't go real deep. But that's the kind of conflict resolution she had.
Yeah.
And her mother beat her with a brush and people saw it.
Yeah.
And if anyone's wondering, it wasn't reported because when this one friend went to report it, she was told by, I don't know whom, but that it would ruin
her
Tonya's career. Yeah,
to skate.
So, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the coach.
Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say, but the coach, she went back to Tonya. I don't know the time period, how big that gap was, but she was a mentor to her, and it's like, a positive influence.
Yeah, and she did seem like you said, like a classy lady, and like she knew like how things should go. This is A, this is B. There was a sequence to it, and she was very devoted to Tonya.
Yes, and she also understood or had a good idea of what was going on behind the scenes, mostly because the mother wasn't hiding it. And so I think she felt sorry for Tonya.
She said in the documentary that we watched of actual footage of this Diane, she said that she felt like skating was Tonya's ticket out of this unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
And so that was like a driver for her. Plus, she said she's a champion, and it's always nice to have a champion, that you're coaching,
Yeah.
So, all right, final character that we're going to talk about, the dad.
Oh, we talked about him, didn't we?
Well, we didn't go into depth about him, but
okay.
I mean, we talked about the incident of when he left, but I just had him on my list here.
Oh, okay.
Last.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to say. He died not long ago.
Yeah.
2009. He died. I think he was in his 70s. And we know that he loved her and supported her. You said that he was the fourth husband of the mom?
Yes.
Okay.
She had gotten married one more time after him.
Okay. I missed that. But, and I don't know what else to say.
I can't imagine what it would have been like for him to hear about all of this.
Yeah.
Because he left the mom, and you could see that her I think she probably has some mental problems.
Yeah.
That
I think so.
Were not easily solved. I'm not making light of that, but I'm just saying, with the bird and the things and all the knife and and so the dad, I don't think it was probably a stretch for him to think that, well, there could be more to the story, but I'm sure that he was incredibly disappointed.
Yeah.
That Tonya had gotten herself involved with Jeff.
Yes.
And his buds.
I'm sure. That's his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to go back to the mom. I
Sure.
just remembered something else too. In the movie, they show toward the end, all the media is outside of Tonya's home, and there's this pounding on the door, and I just knew instantly it had to be the mom.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it was the mom. She comes in, and for the first time that we see, she says to Tonya that she's proud of her. She says it in a not the best way, but that she's done well. And this is after the incident with Nancy Kerrigan.
Yeah.
And the mom says, I love you. And then she says, but just tell me, did you do it?
Yeah.
And then Tonya starts to get suspicious, and she's like, what is that in your coat pocket? And it was a recorder.
Yeah.
And it just made me sick to see that and to think of that. So I'd like to fact check that as well and see if that was true. Actually, I wonder if it's on this site here.
Yeah, check it out. That would be disheartening to think that your own parent would try to deceive you. I mean, it's one thing to have them just ask you, did you do it?
Right, especially, well, what was the motivator, whether it was money.
Yeah.
I'm sure the mom needed the money, but
yeah,
I don't know.
the mom was quite the character, and some stuff just can't get fixed.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to what we learned. Okay, if you think about just all that you've learned in the last day or two of this case and what happened with her life, what are your takeaways?
I would say that when you spot some positivity in your life, cling to that. and try to recognize that and try to look forward. Try to find that wisdom in those people that are in your life that are a guiding light, really. I think that would be one thing.
Yeah.
And I think another would be try to leave the past as the past. Try to learn from that and move forward, rise above, because in Tonya's case, she did rise above on ice. What a champion. The first
she
woman,
literally rose above.
Absolutely. The first one to ever land that triple axel.
Yeah.
Or I believe it's axel. And what I understand of that is not much, but that to
it's
make
hard.
that spin, and then the way Tonya said it, and when you land on that one blade, it's 400 pounds somehow
Of pressure.
because it's pressure
because of the spinning.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, but if you can rise above in one way, you certainly should be able to in another as well.
Yeah, I think those are good lessons for going forward. I mean, obviously, no one gets out of this world without making mistakes.
Yeah.
No one gets out of this world without having disappointments, all the way from just a little disappointing to absolutely devastating. And it's really then our response to those disappointments and how we do go from there.
Yeah.
And I do hope for Tonya and for Nancy. They've been talked about every which way. Look at us. We're just a couple of ding-dongs.
I know.
Talking about them now, and it's been how many years, right?
Oh, my gosh.
So their lives have literally been in the public eye, and as a result of this, I mean, you think about Olympic champions, and they're not tainted by this controversy, and the whole country was watching, right? And then after it was done, and the judge, laid down the law on Tonya, and she had to go, she went, whatever she had to do, go to jail for 10 days or something. And
she didn't get jail time. She wanted it.
Oh, that's right. She wanted to be like the thugs that actually did it. She said, give me 18 months in jail.
Because then she could go back to skating. But she was banned. Not
That's
only
right.
from competing ever, but she could, because in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, she could do Disney on Ice. She could do ice capades.
No, right.
You can't. She can't coach. Nothing.
That's really unfortunate.
Yes.
And she did do time in jail, not for that, though. It was for some other assault that she had committed or DUI or something like that.
Yeah.
Long story short, though, in terms of my takeaway from the movie, I just viewed Tonya Harding as someone who was definitely a champion. She was no one can take that away from her. And they just can't.
True. That's true.
What she did was phenomenal.
Yeah.
She was a phenomenon in and of herself. And I hope that now in her 50s and forward, and however long she has to live on this planet, that she'll look at the positive and forget the rest of it. That's all we can do.
Yeah. She says that's what she is now capable of doing. She said that she's happily married with kids and things are good, and that she claims she did learn from that and has moved on.
I did write down this quote as we were listening to different like interviews that she had done. And this is a quote from Tonya in an interview. She says, "Life is too precious to give up." And it is precious.
Yeah, it is.
So let bygones be bygones, and things, happen, and we just keep on going forward. All right. Anything else you want to say?
I would tell people, if they are interested in knowing what was true and not true, that definitely look at this history versus Hollywood on the iTonya in particular. It's interesting. Somebody asks, did Alice or did the mom actually, Lavanya, had this interview with the fur coat and the bird on her shoulder? And yes,
she did.
She did.
We saw it. Yeah. All right. We do have a scripture to share, as we always do. And when we're talking about what scripture should we do, because this is a tough one.
Yeah.
But Cathrine had a good one that she came up with, Isaiah 43:19, and it says this: "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" And I think that that's found, God is doing a new thing in our lives all the time.
Yeah.
So yesterday is gone and done, even whether it was 20, 30 years ago or if it was just literally an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go forward. Speaking of going forward, Catherine and I are going to the gym after this recording. We're still gonna go. We have to.
It's
We've been
2:30
lax.
in the afternoon.
I know,
we
but
never
we're
go this late.
I know, but we're gonna go because we're paying for the membership and we got to get there. All right, friends. Well, thank you for listening. You've been listening to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm still comedian Tracy DeGraaf.
I'm still Catherine.
We'll see you next time.